Thank you for tuning in to another episode with Mrs. Danielle DeVita. So today we're going to talk about what's common versus what's normal. And I think people confuse the two because people think that because it's a common situation, it's normal, right? It's normal for children to disconnect from their parents in a way that they want to have no type of contact with them once they hit puberty and things like that, right? So they think that that is normal because it's common, but it's not normal behavior. It's common behavior. But a normal is what someone would consider the opposite of abnormal. It's healthy, and healthy relationships between parents is what's good. And so when you think of it like that, think of relationships. Yes, it's common for people to have arguments, to fight, maybe to even get physical, depending on how you've grown up. If you've grown up in an area like a community where you often see not just your family, but other family members, where when they argue, they are on 10, right? They're on level 10. They are heated. There's fighting. There's hitting. There's throwing things. That's considered common in your area where you've grown up. But it doesn't make it normal. So abnormal behavior is behavior that is outside of what is designed, what should be done. And relationships are designed to be healthy, and healthy relationships includes healthy communication. So whenever you have an unhealthy form or a toxic form of communication, it's considered abnormal. Doesn't matter if it's common or not, it's considered abnormal. So when you are having these common toxic traits, it's still considered abnormal, and that's not how a healthy relationship should go. So sometimes people kind of rule out red flags because they think, oh, this is normal. Yes, it's normal to have disagreements. It's normal to, at the time, not be on the same page. In some cases about everything there is. You're not. The things that you should be on the same page is things that are fundamental, your standards. But you're not going to agree on everything about every situation. But that's okay. It's how you disagree is what the problem comes into. So disagreement is not a problem. How one disagrees, how one communicates. Being angry is not a bad thing. How you display that anger. Whether you're what you say, what you do, what you don't say. Because sometimes people do silent treatments. That's not okay. It's common, but it's not normal behavior in a healthy relationship. So the things that would be normal in a relationship that are toxic is if the relationship is an unhealthy relationship. So toxic behavior is normal in a toxic relationship, right? So you can't have a healthy relationship, but toxic behaviors. So I think if you get in the mindset of understanding that things that are common are not always normal, and you shouldn't look at what other people are doing. You shouldn't be looking at what's common. You should be looking at what's normal for a healthy relationship, how one communicates, how one shows love, how one has disagreement and resolves disagreements, how one see their outlook on life, right? How do they see the world and themselves and relationships? Those things you do want to happen in common, because when you have those things in common, the relationship runs more smoothly because they are attached to fundamental issues. They are attached to maybe how you parent. They are attached to, and again, in all forms, you may not agree in how to parent, but the solution is the same. You guys still want the same solution of, you want this end result, but how you guys go about it may be different, and there can be communication in that. And then if need be, third party, right? So I think because I've coached a lot of people, and I'm noticing that people think that, well, he can yell or she can yell, or I like this kind of toxic behavior because you're used to seeing your parents do that. You're used to seeing your mom with this toxic behavior, or your father have this behavior, and you feel like, well, they've turned out right. But just because people turn out right, people go through a lot of traumatic situations and they still turn out okay, despite all of the trauma that they've endured. But it doesn't make it okay to go through. And I hope that if you want your children to have a healthy relationship, that you want to be a good display of that, because there's two ways to teach your child how to have a healthy relationship. You either sit down and have that conversation of how to vet and have healthy relationships, or you show it in your action of how you are forming a relationship with others. Because even as a baby, this child is noticing how you are forming your relationships with others. Even when they're forming their first words, they're going off of the language that they hear you say. Even your pets, you may notice it's almost like they understand what you're saying because they are used to your emotion tied to your words and then what you are requesting of them. And once there's a consistency in that, they become to understand what it is that you want, right? So that is how it is when you have children. When they see you form relationships or situationships, they feel that that's how things should look. They don't know any different until they go out in the world and they see different. But if they go out in the world and they see mom and dad having these same situations, aunts and uncles having the same situations, grandparents having the same situations, and then their friends, family members and friends having the same situations, they think this is normal, right? We see it's normal where the lady is, she has a spicy attitude, right? And we think that that's cute and that's okay. And then we see guys that are and I don't like to use this word, but just for illustration, I want to say like this hyper masculine behavior where it's they're toxic in their behavior to prove that they are all man, right? And that doesn't make it right? Because then when you see a man who is not doing all that yelling and screaming and he's silent or he walks away from conflict, then we look at him as, oh, he's not man enough. Oh, he's a wuss, or he's this. No, he's actually strong because he's learned to manage his behaviors and not allow it for him to go off the rails because of that anger. And so sometimes we think that something's wrong with someone else when they behave opposite, when that woman doesn't say anything. Because I've noticed often when I talk about femininity with women, and I say when a woman is quiet or she gets silent when there's chaos around her or someone's yelling at her, someone would interpret that as her being weak when she's learned not to give in or invite herself to an argument, but to withdraw from an argument or a toxic situation. Not because she's weak, but because she's emotionally intelligent enough to understand that this conversation, this discussion, this argument does not serve me well at this time. It's going to take away my peace. It's going to take me out of my femininity. It's going to have me to be unbecoming in character. So I refuse to respond. And I'm above this kind of foolishness, not because she's snooty or not because she's weak. So I think that sometimes we are in such toxic situations that we think the other person has the issue. Oh, they're a wuss. They're weak. They're this, they're that. No. You are displaying so much toxic behavior and you're seeing how common it is that you think that that's normal. And again, common and normal are not the same things. So I do hope that this helps you, because this is what I see a lot in my coaching, both from men, both from women. I see it that it hurts a lot of situations because people actually withdraw from healthy situations because we think, or they think, that something's wrong with the other person. And when we think like that, it hurts us and stifles our growth in having relationships that would be better, not just for us, but for all. Because when you start to learn to form positive and healthy relationships and forms of communication, you're naturally going to do it with others. Because everything that I say here is not just for romantic relationships, but other types of relationships. Imagine if you were like that, how healthy your lifestyle would be to have positive communication with your children, right? To have positive communications with your coworkers and those out in the world. That would be a beautiful thing. All right. So thank you so much for tuning in to Danielle DeVita. Take care.